I like to say, the marketing industry goes way beyond CPG. So many are interested in brand management, but I want to talk about marketing holistically, and that's what we're going to cover tonight. So I come at this as from a couple of different angles, and first and foremost, in addition to my role as a Modern Guild coach, working with our proteges, I also am a career coach at Kellogg at the School of Management here at Northwestern in Chicago, and I spent 18 years in the advertising and marketing industry, working on some, sizable brands, some big agencies. Had a great career until I moved into higher education, teaching marketing and integrated communications, and getting into an awful lot of career advising along the way. So that's a bit about my background. I am really glad to take you through, what the marketing industry looks like today, and some things for you all to consider as you consider and think about a career in some part of marketing, one place or another. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and advance and get into the next slide. Many students through so many years express an interest in marketing, and I find that wonderful and then fascinating, and then at the same time I ask them, well, what part of marketing are you interested in? Because this is really a very, very broad industry and function. For the purpose of our conversation tonight, I'm going to talk about marketing from the perspective of large organizations with very established marketing firms. So that's kind of just a level set there. Certainly there is a lot of marketing that goes on in small, medium, and large organizations. But for what we see as consumers, the brands we engage with and interact with, and all the new products that come our way, that's coming out of pretty established or meaningfully established organizations with decent marketing budgets behind them. And so for the proteges or other students on the call today, this workshop is intended to introduce you to the marketing function, marketing concepts and knowledge that will help you position yourself for an internship maybe one day if you're after that, or in an entry-level position on either the corporate side or maybe even the agency side, the part that I came from, or the world that I came from. So there's an awful lot to consider and think about, and I'll have some real important content related to skills important for marketing, trends in marketing, and other things that you can consider as you make your way through school, summer internships, or an entry-level position. So with that, I'm going to get started, and let's take a look at what's inside this workshop. I'm going to start with kind of the overall marketing function, and then go into some, what marketing looks like broadly, and then some very, very key subsegments of the marketing industry today. We'll talk about the process. What is it all about for a firm to say we have an established marketing function and an organization within our company? What does that process look like? We'll talk about something called the marketing mix. For anyone that's taken an entry-level marketing course, this is also known as the 4 Ps. We'll get into brand building, positioning, and what product differentiation is about, the product adoption curve, some trends in marketing, and then also some of the things that I mentioned earlier, the language of marketing and getting familiar with the vernacular and being adept at that, plus the skills that you need to be good at marketing and that you can focus on while you're still in school, or if you've just come out of school and you're out of a couple of years, what you can be developing now that'll be important and can serve you in any kind of marketing role. All right. So moving on to the next slide, I want to talk just very broadly for a minute about marketing and what it is. And classically and theoretically speaking, marketing is an exchange. It's an exchange between a customer and an organization basically for whatever product or service we want to purchase from them, for an agreed upon value that we think, $3.99 is not a bad price for an Apple iPad. They've sold a lot of them, and they've sold more at $4.99 and $6.99 too. But there's a lot of people who line up around the buildings at Apple when they're about to launch a new phone, a new iPad, a new computer for that matter. And when we're willing to buy because we have perceived value around the benefits of a product and or a service, and we're willing to make that exchange. So that's broadly what marketing is really about day to day. Sometimes those exchanges are very simple and we don't even think about it. Other times we need to take a lot of time to think about the exchange. For example, when we go to buy a new car, much more deliberate and a lengthier decision based on that kind of expense and that kind of investment. And I bring this up also to say what marketing isn't, because so many feel and believe that marketing is really all about the advertising, the promotion, and the communication behind products. And that's only a very, very small part of the process. It's a high-profile one, and it's probably why so many people associate marketing with advertising, but marketing is so much more. And we're going to talk about what more it is tonight. And in fact, let's go to the next slide and I'll show you what the more is all about. When you think about marketing strategy, and in the world we live in where there's so much competition, so many competing brands across various categories, large organizations, large companies are interested in marketing for growth. They are trying to expand their organizations. They do that by creating new products, by promoting existing products, finding new audiences and new markets for existing products. And they develop from this diagram, as you can see, everything from fully integrated strategies to new channels and ways to sell their products. They align with new media, and they figure out ways to use both existing mass media as well as digital and web-based media, social media to connect with consumers. Marketers live in a world that is very customer-centered, and they live and talk about the customer daily. It's always top of mind. That person, that group, that audience is always front and center to them because the researchers in their firm are talking about them. The research that they've done with outside focus groups tells them more about them. So there is an awful lot to marketing for growth that takes into consideration, building integrated strategies, finding new channels, finding new ways to talk to people that are very busy and on the go. So a lot of mobile marketing is important today. Marketing for growth is also about creating innovative and creative messages that break through very cluttered marketplaces and a very, very busy and competitive environment. And then there is something that is about branding to lead in their category. And marketing is in so many ways, and certainly not just in consumer packaged goods, but marketing is all about branding and brand building and creating brands that lead in their categories, whether it is in the chip and cracker category or in the automotive, in technology, pharmaceuticals, any product that is on the market today, marketers are after building brands to lead in their categories and capture an awful lot of market share. So strategically, these are kinds of some of the things that marketers are thinking about and working on day to day. And we're going to break this down just a little bit more in the slides to come over the next few minutes, and we'll get a little bit deeper into each one of these things. So again, let's look at broadly at the marketing landscape. And there's basically two segments that marketers focus their business on, that they focus marketing their products and services to. And one segment of the marketplace is business to business. And that is when businesses sell to other businesses. And some of you may be familiar with that and even work in that kind of environment. So that's B2B marketing. You know, Nike sells to a variety of sporting goods stores. They sell to the NFL, to the Big Ten, to you know, a lot of the you know, college teams that are playing in, you know, in March Madness this month. So they sell to a lot of other businesses who in turn sell to consumers, of course. And then on the other side, there is the business to consumer segment when businesses sell directly to the end user, the consumers themselves. And again, Nike sells directly to consumers through their own company stores, their retail stores, their Nike outlet stores, and of course their website. You can get a lot of custom, you know, custom-made goods directly through them with their Nike ID product and all sorts of things. So Nike sells to both segments. And they sell an awful lot of product, an awful lot of goods, and have gotten into a lot of new things that are tailored around technology as well. But this is how the marketplace breaks down according to the world of Nike. We're going to talk more about some business-to-business organizations and some consumer products as we go through the presentation tonight and the workshop. All right. Breaking things down a little bit further as we move from just the broader marketplace and understanding, you know, well, who are we going to be selling our goods and services to, you know, a B2B audience or the B2C segment. There's also a number of subsegments that you should be aware of that are probably some of the most prominent subsegments of marketing today. I say that because of the spending that goes on in these categories, the growth of products, the growth and emergence of new goods and services, especially in the last 10 to 15 years. So many organizations, many firms are in the subsector of sports marketing. And again, that could be looking at an organization, a company like Gatorade, who creates a drink product in the sports industry, but who uses professional athletes to help market their product. Or we could be talking about one of the leagues. So sports marketing covers an awful lot. We could be talking about sports sponsorship for some of the largest beverage companies in the world. Covers an awful lot. In healthcare marketing, you might consider that there's a number of even subsectors within healthcare. You might be marketing pharmaceutical products to physicians or directly to the consumer. You might be working in a marketing role in a large healthcare operation like a large network of hospitals. Or you could be working for GE Medical Services or GE Healthcare and on their multi-million-dollar medical equipment. So there's a number of different subsectors of healthcare. In tech marketing, you are probably all fairly tech savvy and aware of so many goods and services coming out of the tech segment, and those are everything from, you know, Apple products to the growth and explosion of Amazon, starting as a bookseller, going to, you know, the largest online retailer basically on the planet, similar to Overstock.com, minus the books, of course, to companies like Microsoft and Square D and, of course, Google and Apple. Certainly an awful lot of tech marketing that is going on in the marketing world. Another subsector is something that I'm calling a convergence sector, and that is companies that are bringing together and wanting product managers to help support their products and market them at the intersection of product, media, and tech marketing. And I would say Google is a really good example of that. Google creates products that we use online, on our phones. You know, they want to get into things that we use on our televisions as well, through mobile media. They want to get into, they are in the advertising industry as well. So they are new media and creating products that we use with a lot of our technology. So that is the convergence. And a lot of people have great interest in that space. Then there's the area of professional services marketing, and that is marketing for organizations like large law firms, consulting firms. Again, within the healthcare industry, it could be for large physician groups, but it is service-based marketing versus product-based marketing. But again, a very, very prominent and substantial part of the marketing landscape. And then finally, another subsector that has grown significantly in the last 20 or so years because they have done so much to take a lot of the lessons of consumer marketing and use it in nonprofit and cause marketing is just that. It is the marketing for the nonprofit organizations. They could be national in scope, international, or they could be local organizations in your own communities. But many like the American Cancer Society, the Susan G. Komen Foundation, certainly the Live Strong Foundation, and many, many more education-based nonprofits, food organizations, charities for children, and so forth. Many are taking cues from traditional marketing practices and leveraging those to really market themselves very strategically, just like companies do with toothpaste and cars do in the automotive category. So those are some subsectors that are pretty prominent today, and where a lot of folks look at for finding positions in various marketing and advertising roles. All right, so let's take a look at what's really involved in the marketing process. In the next slide, in going back to what we talked about during the agenda, marketing is a much more significant process than many really fully realize, and it really does begin with these 4 stages. The initial stage for marketing is really understanding, do we have an audience to create the new products that we want to introduce this year, or to enhance the products that we have in our portfolio? Do we really have an audience? And the only way of knowing that is learning from our current customers about more needs that they have, is doing independent research, primary and secondary research, and recognizing, oh, we do have quite significant audiences, and we're going to tailor and build some products around them, and we're going to fill some unmet needs that are in the marketplace. So then the next stage is the piece of new product development, and where a group within a company is charged with creating new products. They start broadly and they get narrow. They might come up with 50, 60, 70 different ideas for new products, and by the time they present that to senior management, their senior leaders tell them they have a budget for 7 or 8, and they go ahead and start the process for developing what's called the marketing mix, defining the product, establishing the pricing strategy, determining the distribution channels, the places where the products are going to be where they're going to be distributed, and then finally the promotions channels. How are we going to talk to this audience that has raised their hand and told us they have a need for a new product that hasn't been out in the market yet, or a twist on an existing product that might have more benefits for the audience? What are we going to do, and where are we going to put our products? So it is going again from a narrow place to a number of products that various teams work on throughout the course of 12 to 15 to 18 months before a product is tested in limited release, generally to a few test markets. And there's some learning that takes place. There's audience acceptance rates that are looked at. And then the team can refine and make any adjustments to the marketing mix before the product is rolled out nationally, regionally or nationally. That's generally the marketing process within an organization said in just a few minutes, but it is the essence of this slide is what a company goes through, especially, again, large organizations as they talk to customers, determine what products they want to bring out, test them, and then roll them out, again, regionally or nationally. All right. When it comes to the marketing process, there's other activities that are going on besides what I just described, and these are, I would call them kind of sub-activities within the marketing mix, within the research process. And this is really about marketing engagement. And if you think about it, you have the product or the brand at the center of this wheel, and you are finding ways to communicate about the brand through various communications channels. You are distributing the brand and using the company's supply chain, and that is going from the manufacturer to grocery stores or wholesale clubs, convenience stores, the education segment, the healthcare segment, and you're pushing your product out through all these different chains, all these different areas within the supply chain. You're also coming up with and using resources to design packaging that gets attention in the marketplace, that gets attention on the grocery store shelf or on the end cap in a grocery store aisle. The brand also has to have an established pricing strategy developed for that, and that means that the brand team, the new product developers have to work with the finance group and develop a pricing strategy. Sometimes there's a sales force that's involved with promoting the products and services of an organization. So a sales team is engaged with when that piece is ready and before it gets ready to be in market in, fully on a national basis. Certainly there's an awful lot of direct marketing to audiences through things like direct marketing channels, direct mail, outreach through phones and reaching people directly in their homes, through digital and e-commerce channels, traditional mass media channels. There's all sorts of ways for this engagement process to take place. So this is just another sub-layer of all of the things that marketers and new product developers think about when they start thinking about creating new products and services. And so let's take a quick look at one of those examples. And in our first example, we'll look at a relatively young brand. Some of you on the call might be familiar with Zappos and maybe loyal Zappos customers, having purchased shoes or other goods from them. But the organization was, first launched in 1999 as an online shoe retailer, and they really had no formal promotion until about 2004. So for 5 years, Zappos grew by word of mouth. They grew by taking care of their customers in a lot of repeat business and direct marketing efforts to those individuals through digital and e-commerce efforts. And slowly the organization grew, and then quite rapidly through the last 10 years or so, until about the time that Amazon acquired them in around 2009 for $980 million. So they had a fast 10 years, and again grew through a number of different communications channels and how they communicated with their initial customer base of early adopters through a much wider audience base, and then finally they got to the point where they have reached $1 billion in sales and is one of Forbes' top companies to work for, and that was just a few years ago in 2010. So Zappos' priority, and one of their big ways that they differentiate themselves is this real intense customer service experience. And it's evolved into their point of differentiation. They position themselves as a firm that cares and is very customer focused. They will do everything to make the experience fun. It's part of their mantra. And one of the things that that they really focus their energy around. So for many people, Zappos is the only place that they'll buy shoes now because Zappos is so good to them, give them a lot of promotional opportunities for coming back to buy repeatedly, and it has led them to be a very, very fast, web-based retailer in recent years. All right, so that is a good example of a direct-to-consumer. That is a business-to-consumer example. And then in the next example, we'll show how a professional services firm has branded themselves and marketed themselves to appeal to other businesses. So some of you are probably familiar with Accenture Consulting, and this is a consulting organization focused on global management consulting, technology and outsourcing services that they provide to other businesses all over the globe. And for many years, up until about 2009, for many years, Tiger Woods was at the center of their communication strategy, their promotional focus of how the brand was going to be positioned, how they were going to talk to other companies. And they did this really effectively for about 6 or 7 years. This campaign won a lot of awards. If you walk through any airports all over the United States, especially in the top 20 markets, you saw a lot of their promotion to business customers and business audiences. And then we know what happened with Tiger, and Accenture had to make a decision. And they walked away from him as, a leading part of their brand platform. And on the right-hand side of this, you can see some of their new messaging today and how they're talking to consumers. Still a very, very simple message, still, a lot of good questions that sometimes can be compelling, something short and simple for audiences to consider and think about with standout imagery that gets attention and that gets noticed. So this is a good example of business-to-business advertising. And as you see this, one of the most important things that B2B marketers have done in recent years is they've taken a lot of cues from consumer brands and from consumer marketing, and they've used it in business-to-business applications so that their advertising does stand out and so that they are establishing their brands in a very, very significant way. All right, just 2 brief examples. So going back to the 4 steps that I shared earlier, research is about identifying an audience. With McDonald's, they've got a number of target audiences, and if we were in a classroom, I'd ask the question, who they are, and you could say, well, everybody goes to McDonald's and everybody eats at McDonald's, and in some ways that's pretty true, but McDonald's really needs to know who eats at McDonald's the most, who spends the most, and how frequently, so that with their advertising budget, their promotions budget, their marketing activities, they can really continue to target their messaging against those audiences so that the marketing dollars are well invested and they don't go to waste. So to answer this question briefly, McDonald's has, up to 3 or 4 different target audiences, and the first and foremost is their heavy user. It is young adult males, 18 to 24-year-old college students, young professionals who eat on the run and visit McDonald's several times a week. So that's one of their audiences. Another one certainly is families and kids. A separate audience is the tween market, those that are between 10 and 12, 13 years old. So identifying an audience and being really specific about that audience is really important. And marketers do this and spend an awful lot of time dissecting and thinking about the audience. Okay, in the next slide, we talk about new product development. As I mentioned earlier, the new product innovation team is really focused on bringing new products to market, and this could include line extensions of existing products. So that's marketing language for taking a brand and having a new product come out of it. So I think recently Taco Bell teamed up with Frito-Lay, and they've got some kind of really popular new, I don't know if it's a burrito or if it's a taco, but it's using Frito chips and using that recipe and wrapping their taco in it. And it's a really nice partnership, and it's a new product, but it's an extension of existing products. That's what I mean by that. So the innovation group, the new product people, are charged with finding what new products can we bring to market each year and getting the funding for those things, and then spending time developing the marketing mix around it. Okay, speaking of the marketing mix, go a little bit more depth into those 4 Ps I mentioned earlier. And as you think about the marketing mix and the 4 Ps, think about that as the overall marketing strategy. You've got to figure out what these 4 pieces mean, create a roadmap for rolling out the product, for the promotions channels, for the distribution channels, everywhere the product's going to be available to customers, and the pricing strategy around it. On top of the marketing mix is this other layer that you should be aware of and be thinking about as a marketer now and as you grow in your career, if this is where you're headed. And those are all sorts of forces, and the main one is the economics. So certainly there are others, but what's going on in the economy? Because if there's not a healthy economy, people are not going to be spending and buying. They're going to stick to the basics. And the things that they need to have versus what they want to have. So having a healthy economy means more people are going to go spend, they're going to buy a new computer, they're going to buy a new 40-inch flat screen TV, they're going to try new products at the grocery store, try new restaurants, and things like that. What happens in our culture from a social and a society perspective, that's another very, very important piece of marketing, as you can imagine, because of cultural influences to all of us. Certainly, technology has been a big driver for new products, and from bringing them to market to putting them online to creating products that are purely technologically driven at their core. So those are some influences to be thoughtful about and to be aware of, in addition to creating the overall marketing strategy. Then again, the final phase of the new product introduction is testing it in select markets. And you do that because, rather than go through significant expense to roll out a product nationally, marketers test a product regionally. In smaller markets, smaller cities like Columbus, Ohio, and Peoria, Illinois, and Denver, Colorado, where they find a pretty good composition of customers that make up like a really nice average blend of national audiences, and they put their products in test markets for a few weeks or even a few months. And then they learn what customers are doing. Are they buying? Are they buying repeatedly? How are they using our products? Then they might go back into focus groups and talk to customers about how they use the product, get more learning. In some cases, some products might get revised. Some packaging might get revised. Certainly the communications around a product might get revised. So that will be important learnings for a new product team or a brand team. And then again, the product is relaunched and put out into the marketplace on a national basis or on a regional basis, depending on the organization. All right, as we move ahead, There's a couple of other key activities that a marketing team, a brand team, or a new products team will look at and address prior to a product coming into the marketplace. And those two things are positioning and differentiation. And these, again, two more marketing terms to become familiar with and be knowledgeable about as you look at potentially a career in marketing. And positioning is really about the process of creating an identity and what you want your audience to think of when they think about your brand. And for the W Hotel Group, and as I use that as an example tonight, they want you to think about a luxury boutique brand that is full service and contemporary and super comfortable and has all the extras and is a really, really worthwhile hotel experience. So they want you to think luxury and boutique. The other concept here is differentiation, and that is the marketing process of really differentiating and distinguishing one brand and one product from the next. So when you've got a crowded category like the automotive segment, there's so many cars in the market. It's how do you set yourself apart from your competition so that when customers decide and build their consideration set of potential cars they want to buy, you're on their list. And, Honda's done a really great job of that over the years. And what Honda stands for and how they've differentiated themselves is by standing for dependability and economy. Honda says you can take our cars, buy an Accord, you can go a couple 100,000 miles with our cars, and it's going to be economical to maintain. It's not going to give you a lot of headaches or a lot of hassles, and you can count on it. So that's what Honda's differentiation is, and the W Hotel chain's positioning. Something else that marketers are very aware of is the product life cycle. And as new products or services are introduced to the marketplace and designed for specific audiences, they move through what we call the product life cycle. And you can see the 4 key stages there, from introduction to a major growth incline to a point of maturity and then decline. And keep in mind that products and brands can go through these stages. They can go backwards, they can go to maturity for a long, long time, and then revert backward to a big growth spurt when they introduce maybe a line extension or a brand extension. And they can find a lot of success repeatedly in the life of their company. And of course, Apple's a really great example of that, as they had about 5% of the computing market, 5% share after 25 years of being in business. And then in 2003, they launched the iPod. And their company went backwards through significant growth. And as we've all observed for the last 10 years, they have been the leader in launching one successful product after another. So companies and brands can, sit in maturity for many, many years, even for decades, come back and go through, as they introduce new products, major growth, which can be major, major impacts to their bottom line, obviously with all those revenues. Similarly, as products are launched, they reach various audiences, and on this slide, you'll see the product adoption curve. And here you'll see 5 different audience groups. And the first group is called the innovators. These are the people in the marketplace that have to be the first at everything. They have to have the first iPhone. They have to be the first to be in line to get the latest edition of the last, Harry Potter book that was going to be released at midnight at their local bookseller. They've got to have the first of everything. They're knowledgeable. They pay attention to the marketplace. And they are key consumers for companies because they get products first and they talk about them incessantly. And they help push products out to other phases, to these other groups, to early adopters, to the early majority. Okay, so a very small group, 3, 4, 5% of the innovators, that audience helps to push products up to the rest of the marketplace and get people interested in them. They are great with word of mouth. They are great at influencing. These are the people that marketers care about significantly today. All right, so one brief example as we near the final slides in our presentation tonight, and then I'll take a few questions. You know, let's look just briefly at the results of successful marketing, a successful marketing mix, product positioning, and many, many line extensions that one brand has had for many years. Some of you may know that Kraft celebrated their 100th anniversary last year in 2012. You know, and what started out as a simple treat has, you know, really had a long, long, long life with many products. And, you know, the basic cookie to snack packs for people on the go, to the minis, to, you know, they've got the different flavors around different holiday periods where they, you know, make the frosting orange for Halloween, all sorts of different products. This is called brand building. All these different products that are extensions of the core product are called line extensions. And lots of different ways that Oreos and the Kraft company that owns them keep building on this product for over 100 years. This is the power of a brand. And meeting various audiences and their interests and their different tastes over the many years. And again, how packaging plays a very, very important role in products and services and various goods because of making them meaningful to audiences as we change our habits and our behaviors. So that's a quick example of one brand. On slide 21, you'll see a number of different terms and language, really the language of marketing for you to become very, very familiar with. And I used a lot of the terms tonight. I talked about the product life cycle and a line extension and how, you know, McDonald's has various audience segments that they talk to, and they talk to them differently. You can't talk to moms and kids the same way you talk to you know, young men who are their heavy users. You segment your audience and you create different messages for each one of them. There's a customer context strategy that is all about what Zappos does to recognize we have people that buy shoes from us every month. Then we've got people who buy from us 3 times a year or once a year. We're going to, you know, reach out to them and contact them based on what their needs are and how they want to engage with us. And we're going to give them deals and promotions and coupons and all sorts of special offers because we want them to remain loyal. All right. Something that should be really, really compelling to you is slide 22. At least I hope it is. Slide 22 is all about what hiring managers and recruiters, brand teams are looking for when they look for hiring new talent to come into their companies, future marketing talent. As someone who, you know, hired on the agency side, I worked very closely with my corporate clients, and I saw a lot of, you know, people come to our teams both on the agency and the client team routinely through the years. And if I had to pinpoint the top skills that are most important for career in marketing, it's the skills that you display on slide 22. And above all, it's starting with being a great communicator in all different forms, verbal and written skills, and how you develop presentations and deliver them. But it's being a skilled communicator to your teams internally, to those you work with externally, and being very, very adept at that. It's problem solving, and that can happen on a day-to-day basis, or a big problem can land on your desk once a week. It's being real effective in working with teams, because everything we talk about tonight is very team-centered. Certainly organizational skills are important because most people in marketing are juggling an awful lot of projects and initiatives, and it's constant. There's a lot of change. It's a dynamic and quick-paced environment. It's very invigorating, but there's a lot to stay on top of, and you'll be expected to be really adept and have good organization skills, time management skills, and keep on top of those things you're involved with. And then at the bottom of that slide is kind of a plus I added there, and that is having a healthy curiosity about people, consumer behavior, the market, brands, being resourceful, having energy for that very dynamic and fast-paced environment, being an ideas person, certainly being brand-centered and being into brands, and then being creative to a degree. That doesn't mean you have to be creative in thinking of the campaign and communication, but it's being creative in creating ideas with your team. And it could be something for the supply chain and your operations, or it could be around packaging. It's all different ways of using creative thinking skills. And then finally, the last two slides here are about trends in marketing. And I think that Modern Guild will make this document available to you so you can look more closely at all these trends. I want to be able to answer some of your questions tonight and allow a little time for that. But number 11 is something, of course, that I highlighted for you because there's a lot of jobs around content marketing. And that is working for both corporate marketers or for agencies and developing a lot of content related to communicating various activities around a brand, developing and publishing content online, offline, in various communications channels through digital devices, all sorts of ways. There's a lot of interest in this area. If you are a writer, and you have a lot of interest in both writing, project management, content marketing might be an area that you want to explore. All right, so I am going to pass over this slide and then just get to this last page is some more resources and publications, websites, and all sorts of resources that can be a very, very big benefit to you as you think about marketing now or in the future. If you decide this is something you want to major in undergrad or do something with an MBA or get into a career in marketing, these are all very, very useful resources and publications that is very worthwhile. And the one I want to call your attention to in the middle of the page, it's called The Brand Gap. If you Google that, you'll find that it's a free PDF. It's about 100 pages. Very cool little book that is all about creativity and strategy and the intersection of those two things. It's very interesting and very novel, and I think you'd really enjoy seeing it, and who knows, it might help you with a class or something else that you're working on. All right, so I'm going to stop talking, and Erin, I'm going to turn it back over to our group and to you and our group, and see if there's any questions.
Okay, perfect. So if anyone has any questions for Mary, please feel free to enter those in the chat box at the lower right-hand corner, and Mary and I can both see those, and she'll be able to respond. So if anyone has any, please don't hesitate. If you don't have any questions at all, that was our workshop. We hope you enjoyed it, and it will be available on demand in a couple days, and we'll be sure to let you know when you can get that on our website. So again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to pose them, but if not, thank you very much, Mary, for taking us through that this evening, and feel free to drop off everyone whenever you need to.
You're more than welcome. I appreciate everyone's great listening, and please let me know if there's any questions. Otherwise, have a good evening and a great week. I think they're dropping off, Erin.
So Mary, I think we actually have a question here from Jillian.
Oh,
it says, what are common entry-level jobs in the marketing field?
Oh, wonderful. Great question. Thank you, Jillian. I would look at two things, and I'll talk about corporate marketing for a moment, and then agency activity. On the agency side, the entry-level role in any organization is basically the account coordinator. And that's a person that comes on to an account team. Say you go work on the Hallmark account at Leo Burnett, or you go work on Budweiser over at DDB. You are assigned to that team, and you'll work with maybe 10 or 15 other people. It's an entry-level role. You have exposure to clients. You participate in a lot of meetings, but you help keep a lot of the activities of the account moving week to week and support the team overall. It's a very, very energizing and very active position. On the corporate side, you might come in as an assistant marketing manager. If you were to go work for an organization like Target, you could go in as a merchandising manager. You could go in to a pharmaceuticals company as as a product manager. So there's a number of different roles, or assistant product manager that you would take on at the beginning, probably after undergraduate work is done and it's your first role. But it is really a very, very foundational role on either the corporate side or the agency side. Thank you, Jillian. Are there any other questions for the attendees that are still on the line?
Like we said earlier, if anyone needs to drop off, please feel free to do that whenever you need to. But if you have any questions for Mary or for me about the Modern Guild program in general, we're more than happy to stick around and answer those for you. So please fire away.
Thank you, Jillian. And I think we're dropping off, so
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you again, Mary. And if anyone has any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. And Mary or I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Thank you, everyone, again for attending.
Wonderful. All right, Erin, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.